Alright, for this video, I'm going to be talking about how I do my personal reflections. My reason for making this video is that I wanted to remind myself about how to do my own personal reflections, because I have struggled with keeping myself on track with that, and my mind has been very avoidant of certain things, and so that has resulted in my memory problems getting worse. And because I want to do things to help my memory not be as bad, I am deciding to make efforts to do things like making this video, for example. Also, I hope that videos like this will be able to help any viewers, and I have written down a lot of things in the notes that I have prepared for this video. I have organized my personal reflection topics into 10 different categories. The first category is diet. I like to reflect about my diet because I want to make sure that I am not eating too much of certain things and that I am eating enough of certain things, because health reasons. I also want to make sure that I have enough energy, and I have a problem with low blood sugar that I have to deal with occasionally, and so I got to make sure that I get enough sugar into my system, because if I don't get enough sugar into my system, I'll not only feel weak and sick, but I'll also have difficulty with doing a lot of things. And my second category for my personal reflections is sleep habits. I like to reflect about my sleep habits because I want to make sure that I'm getting enough sleep, but that I'm also not getting too much sleep. And I try to keep a consistent sleep schedule. However, sometimes I need extra sleep. Sometimes I don't need as much sleep as I'd normally need. And so I may have to think about those things in order for me to plan ahead. My third category for personal reflections is entertainment. That category is my favorite category because that category is the most fun. Anyways, I like to plan ahead what activities I'm going to do for fun, but also I have to plan ahead what things I'm going to be able to potentially get done in my favorite game, that game being Warframe. I have to plan out what I want to do on certain days, and based off of my energy levels and other things that I've got to do, I have to plan out what I'm going to do in Warframe according to those things. And I also have to think about what I want to do for fun, and if I ever have a period of time in which I cannot do everything that I'd like to be able to do, I have to think about what my priorities are and what I want to pick based off of which things I don't mind missing out on and which things that I want to miss out on the least. And I also want to make sure that the things that I am doing for fun have deeper meanings to me than just the happy chemicals in my brain. I want to make sure that what I do for fun, I can have personal connections with, and also I want to make sure that I understand those things and the intended meanings that come from the creators of different things in video games, shows, movies, books, whatever. I want to be able to understand the intentions of the creators, but also I want to find my own interpretations of works, and I also want to make my own personal connections to those things so that I can get more enjoyment out of them, but also that helps me to remember them better. And moving on to the fourth category, work. Work is the thing that my mind usually tends to not want me to think about. Typically, I tend to struggle the most with remembering things that has happened at work, and I also tend to struggle to make myself reflect on things related to work. And when I say work, I'm not talking about making YouTube videos. I'm talking about my other job. And actually, at the moment, I'm not monetized on YouTube, so I'm not even certain that I could even consider this a job if there's no income coming from it. But anyways, my actual job that I'm making money from is a fast food place, and that job, I struggle to remember things about it, but I also struggle to I struggle to make myself think about things related to it unless I absolutely have to. And I want to be able to remember things better. Not just about work, but if I have a problem with anything, I need to be able to remember it. I need to be able to remember the good and the bad so that I can weigh pros and cons to help me make decisions, but I also need to be able to remember both the good and bad so that I can have them serve as contrast so that the good looks better and hopefully the bad won't look as bad because of me being able to be appreciative enough of the good, but I also don't want there to be too much of an imbalance with my views of the good and the bad because I don't want the bad to have too much emphasis over the good and that lead to my life falling apart, but I also don't want to ignore the bad because I need to pay attention to the bad so that I can prevent it from taking over. I don't want to ignore the bad and let it build up and then that result in my life falling apart. So I have to be careful with my balance of my views of the good and bad things in my life. And I don't want to just label things as bad or good because I need to view things. I need to be able to view things in a more balanced way to where I view pros and cons of different things instead of just labeling them as entirely good or entirely bad, because I've noticed that most things don't fit within my own views of entirely good or entirely bad. And I don't want my perception of reality to be distorted by too much bias because I want to be able to make reasonable decisions. And I don't want to just make decisions for the sake of feeling good. I want to make decisions that actually benefit me and benefit other people. And I want to do the most good and the least harm. Anyways, moving on to the fifth category, social. I like to reflect on the conversations I've had with people and their importance, and I also like to reflect on any progress I might have made with building up my bonds with people. And I also like to make an effort to not spend too little time with friends and family. I want to spend enough time with them, but I also don't want to spend too much time because I only have enough energy for so many things. But anyways, I want to also make sure that my friends and family still have meaning to me. And I want my views about my friends and family to be balanced by making sure that I don't give too much special treatment to my friends and family. I don't want to have views about them that are too biased, but I also want to be able to focus enough on them because I don't want to make myself focus too much on too many people at once, because that would drain too much of my energy. But also, I can only do so much for people in both the numerical sense but also the quality of my actions. I can only do so much and spend so much energy, whether it be in a quantitative or qualitative way. And I have to try to find a balance between what I do for friends, family, and anybody else. And anyways, moving on to the sixth category, events. I like to keep track of important events in my life, whether it be the death of a family member or someone that I knew, or whether it be a holiday or someone's birthday or some sort of important milestone or something out of the ordinary that was interesting. I like to reflect on those things because I want to be able to remember them. I want to be able to remember the things that stand out, and I want to be able to remember why they're important to me. And then moving on to the seventh category, predictions. I like to be able to notice patterns about what has happened in the past, and I want to be able to use those details and patterns in order to be able to predict what might happen in the future, not only so that I can give myself things to look forward to, but I also want to be able to prepare myself for things that might happen. And I don't want there to be an imbalance with how I go about doing that, because I don't want to worry about too many things. I don't want to overthink my planning, and I don't want to become paranoid about worrying about too many things that may or may not happen and how to prepare myself for them. But I don't want to be underprepared. In other words, I don't want to act in extremes, because acting in extremes would make me feel like my life would be falling apart. It would just be different causes. And so I want to have balance so that my life is less likely to fall apart. But I can only go so far with balance, because I am not perfect and I make mistakes, and so I have to try to be mindful of my flaws and be forgiving of myself and other people, but I also need to not let myself go, and I need to be able to hold myself accountable as well as other people when I feel the need for that. And so that's what I mean by trying to remain balanced. And I had to count because I didn't number them. Anyways, moving on to the eighth category, personal growth. I like to be able to reflect on how I've grown as a person, but also things that I like about myself and that I want to continue to be able to improve on, but I also like to think about things that I need to get better at, and I need to be able to keep track of my own milestones, but I also need to try to find balance between my strengths and weaknesses. I don't want to focus too much on my strengths and ignore my weaknesses, but I also don't want to focus too much on my weaknesses and ignore my strengths. So I don't want to become overconfident, but I also don't want to become underconfident. The ninth category is health. I already mentioned some things about that, but the health category that I've written down, I want to get into more specifics about that. I've already talked about my diet and my sleep habits. Well, all the categories that I have written down have to do with health, but I want to be able to be mindful about my mental health and my physical health, and I want to be able to do I just zoned out, my bad. And I just had to burp. Anyways, I want to be able to be mindful about both my physical and my mental health, and I want to be able to be mindful of any red flags. I am not a medical professional, so if any viewers have any questions about anything that a professional is needed for, then ask a professional such as your doctor. I'm not a medical professional, so this is my disclaimer, I guess. But anyways, I try to be mindful about red flags and also good signs, so red flags and green flags related to my mental and physical health, and I like to be mindful about any progress I've made, but also I like to be mindful of me going backwards as well, and I like to figure out what I might be able to do to help myself. And so, moving on to the 10th category, learning. Now, the other categories have to do with learning, but specifically with the learning category, I want to be able to keep track of things that I've learned, whether I find those things to be interesting or not, or important or not, and I like to be able to figure out which things I want to learn more about and which things I'm not currently interested in learning more about, and I like to be able to keep note of certain things that I want to learn about at some point in the future. And learning is a very important thing for us humans to do, and so it has to do with how I decide on what I want to do for entertainment, but it also has to do with the kinds of videos I'd like to be able to make and upload to YouTube. And so I like to learn, and I want to be able to help other people to be able to learn. And even though I'm not a professional, I still find it to be a responsibility of mine to help myself learn and help other people learn. And I find it to be a good thing for us humans to help each other learn in different ways and to help each other grow as people so that we can work out our issues better and be able to live life with more peace and enjoyment. And so I've noticed how long I've been recording for, and so I think I might end up having to make a part 2 for this video. But anyways, I have already talked about why I wanted to make this video. And I've also talked about why I do reflections, and I've also already talked about different categories related to topics that I like to reflect on. And I have in my notes next what I want to get from reflections. And so I've already talked a little bit about that already. I want to find deeper meaning in things, and I want to be able to figure out the value that things have to me, and I want to be able to be more appreciative of the good things. I want to be able to understand both the good and bad things better so that I can be able to be more likely to make reasonable decisions. I want to be able to have peace. I want to be able to make peace with the things that trouble me and have troubled me. I want to be able to prevent my mind from distracting me with unpleasant, intrusive thoughts. So in order for me to reduce the amount of unpleasant, intrusive thoughts that I have to make peace with those things that bother me. I like to reflect so that I can find inspiration. That's how I come up with plans, and also how I come up with ideas for different things, especially ideas for making YouTube videos. I have to find inspiration. And I also want to be able to improve my memory, and reflecting on things is very important for being able to improve my memory, because improving your memory requires repetition, but it also requires things to stand out. And so repetition isn't always enough. Sometimes things need to have more meaning and more value to you on a personal level in order for you to be able to remember them better. And so I have struggled a lot with being able to remember things, and so reflecting is necessary in order for me to be at peace, but also it is necessary in order for me to be able to remember things better. And remembering things better is, I think, the most important thing that I need to be able to do, because I need to be able to make reasonable decisions in order to have a better life. And so I've already explained why it is important for me to do reflections. And I have written down in my notes reflection questions and other things, and so I don't know how long I can record on my phone for, and I don't want to take the risk of overdoing it and running out of storage. So I'm going to have to make a part 2 of this video, and I'm going to have to end the video now. So that's it for this video. Peace.